Northeastern Massachusetts. Uh, the lines are the lines are open, so feel free to call the station up. And I'm going to explain to you what a medium is and the difference between a medium and a psychic. And I'll get into some other stuff afterwards. Medium is somebody that can connect with the people that have passed away, and we see objects of things they owned. We also see colors and spirits, of course, and it's just different from everybody. Um, a psychic is somebody who tells the future of past, present, and future events in your life, and they just that's how they work. They could do tarot card readings or like psychometry when you hold a piece of jewelry in your hand, and that's how they get their information. And I want to let you know that I'm a clear sentience medium. So that is somebody who feels the presence of spirits around. And when they sometimes, they'll let me know, I'll take on their personalities. And also, they let me feel like, when you're in a room and you don't feel like you're alone. That's called spirit presence too. There's also clear audio, which is clear hearing, when you can hear the spirits with inner and outer ear, and also clairvoyance, which is also a different way that spirits will communicate with you. You can see them in your spiritual eye or outside of your head. It could be colors, it could be spirit themselves. And I also, that's how the clairvoyance is. With me, I'm going to show you some of my experiences that I've had with the clairsentience part of it and the clairvoyant part of it. I was in a group, which is a spiritual group where you can go and learn and grow. And I was in a spiritual class where everybody has their own gifts in different ways. There are places you can go, but we were all in the circle one night, and we all started giving messages, and all of a sudden I saw a little boy that was starting to form, but all I saw was his color, and all the information was coming in. So afterwards I went over to my friend, and I said, can you understand a little boy that's coming through from the other side? And he said, no. And I said, oh, all right. And then I asked the little boy to back off because spirits will follow me. And so we all shut down, which is when you close down, because spirits, they don't have any time frame on the other side. So when I was driving home with my friends in the car, we were pulling into my driveway, and all of a sudden I wanted to say to my friend, you're gonna hit the little boy in the driveway. And she said, oh, but I didn't, because I didn't want to have her cause an accident. So I kept it quiet to myself. So I went home and I got in the house, and I asked my husband at the time, do you know a little boy that passed away? And he kind of just looked at me, and he didn't tell me any information. And he said, my brother passed away. And I said, oh, he was in a car accident, and he got knocked out of his sneakers. But that's all he would tell me. So he kind of stayed around me for a couple of days, because I kind of asked spirits to back off, because it can be overwhelming, especially when you're first developing as a medium. And he did back off for a couple of days, but it came back. I said, okay, I got to find out who this was more about. The little boy, and his name was Johnny. And so I said, I know somebody that could help me. And I called my brother-in-law up at the time, and I said, look, your brother won't tell me too much, but could you tell me more of, Johnny? And I said, because I was seeing turtles and different things like that. And he said to me, if my friend was pulling in the driveway, and I said, watch out for the little boy. You got to hit him. So when he said that, and I was like, okay. He said, he was knocked out of his sneakers, and I said, oh, your brother told me that part of it, but he had turtles, and he was a twin. So They used to, him and his brother would always get into coots with each other. So one time they decided to let the turtles out of the little, whatever you call it, the little aquarium or whatever they live in. And I said, all right. And so that was really cool. And he said to me, you know, he was curious. So he said, do you have any more information? So I started telling him. And I was saying about his suit. Because when I see spirits too, sometimes it's the hardest form of mediumship. I'll see partially of what they owned. And I, you know, so then the piece of the puzzle becomes harder. But that's what I had to learn to trust spirit. However, they give me information. And I said about the tie. He said he was buried at a tie. That's exactly the tie that you're describing that he was buried in. And I said, oh, really? And so I just looked up at the heavens and I said, thank you. And he said nobody knew about that. And I didn't even know my in-laws at that particular time when this all happened. And he said, yeah, nobody else saw his suit because they couldn't have a viewing of his services. So I said, okay, but just to let you know, he's around and he's with his grandmother and mother on the other side. And he was so happy to hear that. And then years later, he just kind of disappeared totally. I didn't hear from him for the longest time. And all of a sudden we went to somebody's services that had passed away. And people have asked me, do you see awakes and funerals? I said, yes, it depends on how strong your energy is. And I said to them, you can see your wakes and funerals. And one time I was going up to pay my respects to the family and everything. I went to say a prayer and I looked up and there was a figure, it's called transfiguration, forming above the casket. So I said, oh, and I was looking around, trying to be as normal as I possibly could. And I said, okay, nobody's looking. And I said, okay, we've got to be normal now, Karen, whatever normal is. And so, I let it go. And I said to my husband at the time, I said, you know what I said to you? Do we really see our wakes and funerals? He said, yes. I said, well, the lady that passed away, she was there. And she was at peace, though, and I told him so. We went to the church and everything. And the service was beautiful. It was, all, really pretty and everything like that. And another part I want to share with you is the smelling part of mediumship. And that's when you can smell the auras of different fragrances. It could be a cologne or something that they owned or a fragrance of flowers. And I was in the church and I'm sitting there going, all of a sudden when the music got loud, the smell of the roses got very loud. Roses are very symbolic and very special to me. And as I was, enjoying the services, when it was finally over and the whole altar was lightened up in these figures and everything, and I said, oh boy. So I had to learn to trust. And so after the services, I saw my sister-in-law at the time. I went over to her, I said, look, I got to ask you something because you're open to spirit communication. And she said, what do you want to ask me, Karen? And I said, did you smell the flowers in the church? And she said, yeah, I did. She said, it got strong as the services went on. I go, oh, that makes me feel so much better. Because, sometimes you can talk about such things, especially in the early 70s. And I said, oh, okay, to my sister-in-law. And then we went to the graveyard and everything to pay our respects and all that stuff. And then they wanted to find Johnny's grave. And I said, okay, you guys can because he was buried in one area, but they had a hard time finding him. So what had happened was, it was really cold out. And I got into the car to Chuck. I said, I'm going to wait in the car because it's too cold out for me. And they were looking, and I watched the three of them look. I said, he's not there. And I was getting in the back because, I'm just trying to explain to you guys at home how spirit can be and share some of my stories and experiences. And I'm not there. And I said, oh, okay. And I'm in the back. So I didn't say anything for a little while. And it got to be about 20 minutes or so. I saw the three of them looking. It reminded me of the Three Stooges, actually. I hate to say it that way, but it's true. And so they went down further down the cemetery and into the back. I said, again, the voice came very loud into my head. And it said, I'm not there. I'm totally not there. They're looking in the, I'm way in the back. So finally, when they were looking, and as they were looking, I said, oh, he's in the back. You know what I said? I let them do what they wanted because you don't interfere with in-laws. That's one thing I learned. And they finally found him. And I looked at my husband at the time, and they said that I said to him, you know, you people were looking at the totally wrong spot. And he said, you were right. You said to me where I was in the back. But they had moved me. So that's one experience. I'm going to share experiences as I go along with each of my shows. That way you guys could be a little educated. And I just, you know, was like sitting there going, scratching my head. And I thank Johnny for letting me, you know where he was. And, you know, my husband at the time said, thank you very much. I appreciated that. And I should have listened to you, but I go, I know you didn't, but I was going to wait the car because it was cold out. And by the time they were done looking, of course, the sun had cleared up and everything, you know, it ended up being a really nice day for March. And so we went home, and I was sitting there going, you know, I had to learn to trust spirit because, you know, seeing, hearing, and feeling, when you're feeling you know, when you don't understand, like, I didn't know what was going on with me, so I needed to learn more. So I was lucky enough, fortunate enough, that I got led to the Spiritist church, where I had to learn to control, and I had to learn to control big time. But that's where I learned about clear audio, and clear sentience, and clairvoyance, and seeing, hearing, and feeling, and a big time trust. And another story I wanted to share with you is I was out, you know, with my friends, and when I have spirit children come through, I have to give it. I said to my friend, I said, I have a young girl that's near me, and I started explaining to her how I worked and what I did. She knew me anyway, so I didn't really have to get into all that. And so when she did that, I was like, okay. And she said to me, can you tell me who's around? So I described her, you know, and I felt the energy because I feel a lot and I pay attention. So she was, you know, listening, and so she could take the young child that was coming through. And, you know, just these experiences I'm just trying to share with you at home. And one time you ever feel like you're alone, you know, you know somebody's watching you, those are real. You know, it's like, you know, I said to, you know, I just didn't know who it was that was around me, but I could feel them, and I was in church praying, and then all of a sudden I felt somebody tap me on the shoulder, and I went to look, and I didn't see who it was. So I said, all right, and I just, you know, just said some prayers and just let it go. But that's, you know, a big part of me is the clear sentience part of it, where I can feel the presence of spirits all around. And if you have the gift, there are places you can go. And just so you know that, and I just wanted to tell you that. And, you know, lines are now open, so feel free to call the station, but I'll keep going on with more spiritual information as I go. And, you know, that was like how I work, it's just like that. But I wanted to share one experience that I was having. I was helping somebody else out, and I was behind the camera at a football game, and all of a sudden the field lit up with, you know, the clairvoyance part of it, and I was seeing the spirit energy, and I was like, oh my goodness, you know, I said, somebody's around, but I can't help you right now because I'm behind the camera trying to, you know, do some, you know, work. And if they backed off, then I knew who to call, actually. And I said to this is what's going on. The field was lightened up. I can't really say too much about the person with the, that was coming through, but she explained all the evidence was making sense. And I said, oh, okay. So that's where I had to learn to trust a little bit more of what I was seeing and feeling and hearing, because, it took me a long time to accept who I am and that I am a medium and I can see people that have passed away. So I was just like, it took a lot of time. As a matter of fact, I even went to a priest of ours who I knew for years and years and years, and I said, look, Father, I have to tell you this, and this is going on with me. And he said, accept your gift. I said, because it took a long time for me to accept, who I was. And I said, all right. And he said to me, just see what they want and then just, deliver the message. And I said, that's what I am. I deliver messages from our loved ones who have passed away to the living, And I said to him, I go, what was really interesting is I said, but Father, you don't think I'm a kook? And he said, I don't think you're a kook by a long shot. You just got to learn to control your gifts, though, and, just let you know that, too. So I was like, okay. And I said to him, thank you very much, and I appreciated that information. And one time I could remember with the clear sentience part with the smelling and everything, that I was in the room and I was hearing, I was smelling some more stuff, a perfume fragrance, and it was somebody that I knew that I didn't know, but I knew that was around. And I smelled really pretty perfume, and I was like sitting there saying, oh, that's really nice, somebody's around me tonight. And I said to them, what do you want? And I was getting the, message, and I said, all right, and I will, say, sure enough, it was the perfume that somebody used to wear. So that's another way that spirit will communicate with you, is you could smell like a favorite cologne or, even something they drank or ate, and share the memories, And I said to, them, I said, that's really good, because that way I know that, you're around and stuff like that. So I said, I have to really learn to shut down, and that part of it came with growth as you do learn to grow. And I'm also a sketch artist, and which just means I could draw the people that had passed away. And after a couple of minutes, I'm going to get going with the drawing too, on a piece of paper. If anybody at home recognizes the person on the paper, feel free to call, because that way, they'll know. And it's called spirit art, which you could draw the deceased loved ones on a piece of paper. And I wanted to share something about that too. And I'm just explaining a little bit how us mediums work, so that way you guys can understand it a little bit better at home. And I don't like to tell you different stories as I go. And I just had to let you know. And I was, at home drawing on a piece of paper. And I said to my daughter, I was going to be helping somebody at a Sunday service. And she said, take the drawing with you, Ma. You need to take it. And I said, oh, all right. She said, it's going to be validated at the service. And all of my two daughters are open, and they have a gift, but each in that different kind of way. And I said, all right, and I will. And I, sketched her out, finished her off, and I had time to do that. And so I bought her, my friend came, the Reverend came and got me, and we went down, down the Cape. It's near the Cape, it was near the bridge, and I said to her, I got this drawing in here. It's a picture of a young girl. She said, I was given to the Reverend so-and-so. And I said, okay. And I said to her, I will, when we got there, the Reverend came in over and greeted us and everything, because I was the medium for the night and she was the lecturer. And I'll explain that to you in a couple of minutes. But what it was is she did that, and I said, oh, here, I got something to show you. And she said, what? And I said, There's a drawing that I did, and I don't know who it's for in the congregation. And so she said, all right. And then we went and we, were going along with the Sunday service and everything like that. So she said to me, it was, I will take the drawing from you and that will last when it's your time to get up. And they call, when you're doing mediumship work, they call that particular church the message bearer. And the reverend holded up the drawing. And she said to me, and she said to somebody in the congregation, Karen did this drawing, but can anybody understand who it is? And she looked around the room, but she knew exactly where to go. And she went over to one part of the church, and the person raised their hand. It was their daughter. And I said, I said, this is for you. I wanted to give it to you. And she understood her reading and everything like that. So that's where the gift had changed with me. And you do constantly, you grow with it, you might think of one way, like the clear seeing and hearing and feeling, it's going to be the same way. But for me as a medium, it changes. It did change through the years because it takes several years of study to understand what's going on. And I was fortunate enough to have two very good reverends that helped me out along the way. And, I said to myself, all right, and I'm going to get going a little bit with the drawing. So if anybody can understand it at home, feel free to call the station. And I'm going to get going just as long. I have a heavy set man that's been around me. And he had passed from cancer. And there's something about a V in his name, or I don't know if that's a relative he's with, but he's very heavy set, very tall. Thin in the hair. Kind of bald up top. He's an interesting character too, because I'm getting that somebody used to have fun with them and take the towel and shine it on top of his head, just to, that way of having fun with this person that's coming through on the paper. And this is called Spirit Art. A very kind man. He's over there with somebody that also had passed away from cancer, and it's a female that's over there with him. I don't know if she's related to the man or not, but she had cancer. It spread throughout her whole body, and by the time that they went in and tried to help her out, it was just too late. There was nothing they could do for her. I'm going to show you what I have on my paper so far. If anybody can understand, this is who I have on the paper so far that's coming into the paper, and I just wanted to show you that. If everybody can see it at home. He was a very hard worker, he was telling me, and also he was, at one time, he was in the service, and I'm feeling heart condition with him that got him in the end. And he wore glasses. This is what we call a quick sketch. Where they'll give me only the basics. So rounded in the face and kind of like chubby in the chin area. Very nice, kind man. He worked very hard. He didn't have the greatest diet, though, he's telling me. And I don't know if anybody at home can understand a Victor, but there's been a Victor hanging around me too. So, this is what I have so far. If anybody can understand it, feel free to get in touch with the station. I'll have the drawing with me. And I'm not saying he's Victor, but there is a Victor that's been hanging around me. And he's with the woman that had cancer, and I'm feeling a rose too. And I get names sometimes too, so names will come in with me as as I go along with your reading. Oh, and one thing, if anybody does call the station, I don't like to have any information given to me during a reading at all, because that's what we call feeding this medium information. And Karen has a little list of things to do and not to do during a reading. And there he is. So if anybody can understand him, call the station. I will have the drawing safe and sound with me. But that's called spirit art. And I just want to explain to you guys, how different mediums work. That's why I like to share in a story, because that way, sometimes it's easier to understand. One thing that's very important when you're doing mediumship, though, is shutting down. You have to be, because you got to do life stuff too. And I said I had to learn to close down and to say, wait until it's time to let me know when you're doing a reading, because otherwise everybody in the station would be getting readings. And so that's what I had to do with, this spirit stuff is, I just had to close down, just ask them to back off. And you'll hear me doing that, saying that. Sometimes in the reading, just if it gets too cluttered, sometimes energies will overpower each other. And if you have a strong energy here, you'll have a strong energy over there too, on the other side. And it's, so that's what I said. Okay, you got to back off and wait your turn to let somebody else come in and have a turn. And that's how I, pretty much communicate with people, and I, that's, how they are with me when I communicate. So I wanted to feel a little educational with you, the best I can be. And, I'll have different spiritual discussions for you when you call. If you, want to know anything after your reading, I don't do medical diagnosis. That's your doctor. You have to go see for those kind of things. Just, hearing from your loved ones, or if somebody starts coming through that you don't want to hear from, I could ask them, thank you, but no thank you, not at this particular time.
Around 30.
Yeah. But our loved ones are gone, but not forgotten, and just a thought away.